Morning, Bones.
Morning, Padre.
So,
Interesting discussion that we had about why things are increasing in price. It prompted me to look into it. Did you do the same?
exactly like we discussed a couple days ago, what is the cause and effect of government involvement in these rising prices? And and what can they do to try to bring this down? I mean, we know inflation's down, we know wages are up, but we see these price increases, and it seems to be a sticking in everybody's craw that, oh
Right.
man, the promise of lowering prices, and yet we're not seeing it right now. So Bones and
Yeah,
I
and then
wanted to take a look at it.
don't forget that the price of oil down is down per barrel around $57 a barrel, which is, in history it's been around the $2 range at the pump. Anyway, moving forward, I chose the three main issues that I saw were prevalent was egg costs, beef costs, and fuel costs.
Okay.
So along that lines, and looking at it, investigation, every one of them had these six key reasons. Um, Drought and weather conditions, number one for food.
Okay.
Rising feed costs, uh, processing uh, processing plant bottlenecks, shrinking cattle herds, inflation and increase in production costs, and consumer demand. So with the fuel, there wasn't any feed involved in the fuel, but you just can't turn a valve off on anything and not have cost increase.
Right. And this is something where you've got a little expertise, having worked on the oil fields for several years. Um, I guess people don't understand when things hit and the economy goes, and a lot of this dates back to the COVID era when people were not being allowed to leave their homes, not being allowed to go to work. Uh, these plants have to be shut down. Like winterizing a trailer, you've got to shut it down and prepare it so that it doesn't go too bad. People are not aware of what that entails. Maybe you could fill us in a little on that, Bones.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go sweet gas or sour gas being corrosive, so it's the worst part. But I'll just try to keep it simple with a sweet gas well, which is less cost incurred, but it still is cost incurred.
Okay.
So let's say they mandate shutting down a field, like happened during the Obama administration and the Biden administration.
Right. Shutting down
So
pipelines,
now
shutting down fields.
you can't just walk out, turn a valve to shut it off. Initially, you could do that, but you got to get out there on each one of those wells. Let's say there's 50 wells involved. So each one of those wells, they got to put a plug in it because we don't have a determination of how long that's going to be shut down. So that incurs bringing in a workover rig to set the plug. Then they got to kill the well, and they got to call Halliburton in there to pump some cement on top of it just for safe measures.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the wells shut in. So we got to do that 50 times. So in today's market, you're looking at about $20 million per well to have that process done. Okay. So let's say we want to put it back online. What has to happen? It has to happen in reverse. You have to bring in the workover rig. You have to drill through the cement. You have to retrieve the plug. You have to replace the production tubing that was taken out. You have to reperforate the zone, and then maybe you can put it back on after some testing. So you got another roughly 30 million per well to get it back online. So cost incurred of shutdown and reopening and today's prices is on at or above $50 million per well.
50 million per well. And during, when it's being shut down, obviously the supply is going down. The demand really, isn't going to decrease. So supply and demand, basically the cost is going to skyrocket because the oil folks are not just going to take that hit on their own. The price
Nope,
per
all of
barrel of
that.
what they have in reserve is going to go up, which is
Yeah,
why we
all of
would
that.
see skyrocketing gas costs. And to open the
And
well back up, you're going to
yeah,
see that cost maintained until they've recovered it.
right. And then now at that point, because wages have increased and the cost of production has increased, all of that incurred, it will never go back to what it was prior to the shutdown.
Right. So with all of this occurring, again, even if inflation's down, even if your supply becomes unlimited, let's just say, uh, your cost isn't going to drop down below where it was before. It's going to drop, but it's not going to decrease to this point where we see $1.90 gas per gallon again.
Yeah, and with that going on, all the people that are in Houston or wherever that are in charge of all this are making determinations on each one of those wells to determine whether it's feasible for the cost to put the well back online. So you may lose some wells. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
You know?
so you may not have even the supply you had before.
Right.
And you can look at cost per barrel, like you talked about, down to $57 a barrel when it's been around 80, didn't you say?
Yep.
So there's a decrease in what it is per barrel, but what was the cost per barrel 10 years ago, Bones? Do you have any idea? I know I'm
10
throwing
years
that
ago.
at you blind.
Yeah. 10 years ago is pretty much where it is today, around 50 to $57. I seen 48 back then, but that was the lowest.
Okay,
Um, but it would fluctuate between, let's say, fluctuate between 50 and 60 a barrel.
okay. And what were our gas prices back then?
I was seeing here it was 240, 250.
Okay. So even though the cost per barrel is there, with the rising income for employees, these other factors you talked about, bottlenecking of supplies, and let's not forget price gouging at the pumps by each individual company. We're
Yeah,
prob
you could see that real evident. By the interstate, the price is high, right?
mm-hmm,
And if you drive further down in the valley or into the valley, either direction, the price drops a few pennies for each station the further west you go.
mm-hmm.
You know, so the people getting off the interstate traveling are paying a higher price, and the people on the interior that know where to go get it. You know, so
Well, and I'm sure this also has to do with a lot of your uh, local change that, okay, if you are loyal to our business, we give you a loyalty type card and it'll save you 5 cents a gallon.
right,
But you're going to have to buy all your gas from us. So they can
right,
afford to do that and not really lose money. So it is a form of price gouging where, anybody else is going to have to pay a higher price. So, okay, so that kind of covers the fuel costs. Uh, do we anticipate it coming down from where it is now, Bones?
looking at it and what they're saying here in the U.S. without looking at OPEC, because Alaska they just reopened the wilderness areas to drilling and
Mm-hmm.
exploration and production, putting the Alaska pipeline back online, which is going to be cost. But with all of that happening, I foresee maybe around 280 at the minimum
Okay.
for fuel.
So something we can look forward to is possibly, gas prices. We're hearing rumor of it, and here's why it's occurring the way it's occurring. We may see it down around 280 again.
Yeah, that's from the experts on the oil industry in the U.S. You know,
But
that's not.
remember, folks, along with that increase in price from what it used to be, there has been an increase in the average wage. So your dollar is going to go farther than it used to go. The price is going to stay up a little. Okay, so that covers our fuel and oil costs, man. Uh, you talked about beef and eggs, man.
Okay, well, yeah. So again, you refer back to those 6 points that I had talked about, uh, and of course the government put these out, but drought and weather conditions, they're blaming it on that, and the feed, which we talked about. Um, but I want to know, like, what about the mandates and the money that was given to the ranchers and the farmers not to produce food,
Right.
beef?
And I don't know as a lot of people are aware of this. I remember when I first learned of it, I was shocked years ago. I mean, I'm talking 20, 30 years ago. I went hunting with some friends on some private property. It was called a ranch. We get up there and it was just desolate wilderness country. There were a few tractors sitting around, but the people I went up with, I mean, the connection was friend of a friend. And this guy was charging outsiders, 2 grand a weekend to come hunt his property, hunting deer and elk. Uh, but but they were laughing about it because he was receiving about $2 million a year not to run cattle or produce crops on his property. Uh,
Yeah, the
it
the two
baffled me
million,
at the time.
2 million to that one single rancher comes out of taxpayers,
Right.
money that's
The
paid in.
government was paying this man that had all this property not to run cattle or grow crops. Uh, and I think we see, if I'm seeing it in a small local community, I'm imagining it had to be happening everywhere. So you take that, uh, which is the government limiting supply while demand is increasing. Of course, that's going to drive costs up. The other thing that I've seen here locally, and it was affected, probably started around the COVID era. I live in an area where there was a lot of property that ran a lot of cattle. It was a local beef source, and a lot of the local markets bragged, ours is local beef. And you'd see hundreds of cattle in the fields right off the side of the road. Around the time of COVID, you saw those herds start dwindling. Obviously, people couldn't go out to take care of them. They couldn't get feed for them. A couple of years go by and you don't see any cattle out there anymore. Property's just sitting desolate. And now, all of that property, hundreds of acres, they sold it and it's now housing developments, apartment complexes, and a huge Costco going in. So you're bringing more people into the area, and you've just taken away a big chunk of your local supply of beef. Uh, who's going to make up the slack for this missing supply?
The American farmer, uh, it would cost. They probably won't do it. That it would cost them, just like we talked about shutting in oil field, to rebuild a ranch someplace else. Not saying there isn't property you could do it, but you got a lot of cost incurred to get a ranch up to speed to raise cattle.
Well,
So
yeah, and even if they'd have, for some reason, obviously financially and with what was going on, they had the property, they had their supply chains, but the crops stopped being grown. They couldn't raise their cattle. So now you've got this big chunk of land that you're doing nothing with and making no money off of. And you have people, investors, developers coming in going, hey, real estate's at a premium right now. We'll give you, millions of dollars an acre to give us this land so we can do our developing on it. And these guys in the meantime are struggling, dead broke, looking at the cost of trying to start back up, with younger generations not even willing to take over and put in the hard work it's going to take to get this back up and running and maintain it. It's only a wonder that these smaller ranches have just gone under. They've sold their property off and got what they could out of it when property was at a premium. But there goes a major supply of local beef. I don't know how this gets made up. It's not like somebody else all of a sudden has 100 extra cows that they're willing to dump into that market. So your
right,
prices are still going to be high because you don't have the supply. And those that
right. You
do
have
start back up incur those costs of you have stated. Now you got to have farmers that are growing the feed. You got to have ranchers that are willing to work at higher wages to come in and get this done.
Yep, it's just a like a snowball effect when that kind of thing happens. Um, the next thing I looked at, um, which was real prevalent, was the egg market.
Okay. Well, now
Cost of
we saw the increase in the price of eggs, but we've now seen that price significantly decrease again. In fact, actually down below where it was when it first increased. So,
yeah. Um, so COVID had a part in the raising of chickens because of the feed and stuff, and uh, and the plant shutdowns. But the government come in and said that the bird flu was affecting all the chickens.
okay.
But what it turned out to be, it was only the egg laying chickens. So
Well, that's interesting.
they mandated, I'll call it a slaughter, they call it euthanization of 108 million chickens in the U.S.
Holy cow.
There are abouts, they don't have an accurate figure
Right.
on the chickens.
So
So they
now,
basically,
now these chickens that had the flu, I'm going to throw this out there for those that haven't been involved in our discussion. Uh, when they slaughter these chickens, do these go to market as chicken breasts, chicken thighs, chicken tenders?
there's a difference between an egg layer and one that's raised to be sold as meat, so to speak.
Okay.
Feed's different. The feed's different. Imagine you could make a stew with them,
Yeah.
kind of like a gumbo to eliminate. But they just don't, they just don't taste like chicken. They
Okay.
don't taste like chicken as people know it. And it would take an acquired taste to eat an egg layer,
Okay.
kind of like
So,
bad whiskey, I suppose.
so
But
the egg laying chickens were affected by this bird flu, but the meat chickens weren't.
right.
Uh,
They continue to raise the chickens to sell for food. They continue to raise them, and we never had a shortage of chicken on the shelf. Um, but they say the reason behind it, are all of those six that we provided. But also they say that most of the and I call this bullshit, but
yeah.
most of most of the meat chickens were slaughtered at the age of 18 weeks because that's when they put them in the bag. Well, you'd have a Cornish hen, maybe a small chicken at that
Mm-hmm.
age, but an egg layer don't start laying eggs until about 18 weeks or so, you
Okay.
know. They lay an egg that's like really small.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a while for them to get the egg laying chicken up to speed to put the egg on the shelf. So all those other eggs are used as feed for even the same chickens. They're used for feed for other animals, that kind of thing, until they have a producing egg laying chicken. So it takes time to get the egg layer back on track after you kill them all.
Okay.
The meat chickens, I still call it bullshit. They said they were they slaughter them at 18 weeks for meat, so they're not in the avian flu era in age.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the flu has the ability to determine whether or not it's going to attack a chicken.
Right.
I don't believe, you know, I don't believe this, but they can say whatever they want, but I call it control. I call it government control.
Okay. So with this, we've seen the price of eggs drop, so that market's back online. Uh, what do we expect to see beef wise? The only thing I'm hearing is, the president slashed the tariffs on beef. So obviously we're going to be importing some.
Yeah, we
Uh,
get a lot of meat from Mexico, and I come to an agreement with Mexico several months ago as far as tariffs go. So I don't know why we haven't seen a drop other than what you had said. The demand, the supply doesn't meet the demand yet. You know,
right. Well, and
so
again, with the fuel costs still up, if you're bringing it in, okay, slash the tariffs. It still costs fuel for those people to transport those animals up here. It's still going to have to all be butchered. It's all going to have to be graded, pass FDA inspections before it ever hits the shelf. So, with all these
but
other costs being incurred,
and along with that, in the news, I've noticed several FDA shutdowns and disposal of meat that is produced at the plant for
okay,
whatever reason they have. So the government's still got their fingers in the supply so heavily.
okay. So there is some control there as far as the pricing as to what they could do. I did read, reducing the tariffs would help reduce that, but it's going to take time to see that decrease. Uh, the increase in meat prices is the one that just really baffled me and continues to baffle me. The prices have gone up so significantly, so drastically that
Yeah,
you
what
can.
was it? You said that you had to pay for a steak
Oh,
or you didn't.
I went in. I went in because the price of meat at certain places was getting a little high and the quality appeared to be going down. So I went to a marketplace where I've been going for months that's always had nice looking meat at decent prices and they'd always throw them on sale. And it wasn't even 3 weeks ago I walked in and you could get a 2 pack of probably inch thick T-bone steaks, a 2 pack for 18, $16. They'd be on sale. I went in the other day and I wasn't looking for T-bones at that time. I was just looking for some little petite sirloins, which you could get a 5 pack for about $8, $10. I'm talking 3, 4 weeks ago. I went in and looked, and the T-bones, the same ones you'd get for 16, $18 for a 2 pack, the cheapest one was $45 for a 2 pack. I saw them as high as 60 for a two
You
pack.
could you could go to Texas Roadhouse for less than that.
Exactly.
You know.
Even the petite sirloins that I decided on uh, was a pack I 3 weeks ago I could pick up for $8, $10. It cost me $23. So, the prices have more than doubled and in some instances tripled on the beef. And I don't know. I think that this chain is one of them that depended a lot on local supply. And your local supply, as we've talked, is dwindled, and it's now turning into a Costco. Uh, due to this price, and mentioning Costco, I'll give you this: because of the prices of beef, and I've got 5 huskies, and we feed them a lot of beef and a lot of chicken. Uh, my wife decided, well, we got a Costco coming in just up the street. Let's go get us a Costco card and go take a look at their beef. So we went to Costco, got the card. I went in and started looking. And I got to tell you, their prices are no better than anybody else's right now when it comes to their beef. Their prime beef and their select cut beef was outrageous. You could get cheap cuts. Uh, it was about the same average that I could get at Walmart, Smith's, even Kent's Market, who had great meat prices and an overabundance of all kinds of meat. Their prices
Yeah,
are up.
I like to get meat at Ket's because they'd have those sales, but you don't see that anymore either, you know?
Well, and when you do see a sale, it's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Um, I used to like to go in Kent's, and every time I'd go in, they had their bacon wrapped filet mignons, a little 2 pack. Uh, you'd get a 2 pack for like $8, $9. Bacon wrapped filet mignon. Those things are now 21, $25 for a 2 pack. It's the price of beef. I don't know what I expect to see on that. I do know that I'm hearing rumblings out of the government that they're trying to do things to drop the price of beef, but uh, I have hopes they do. I'm a beef eater, man. I love my steak, and
Yeah,
it's
I don't mind a good steak myself. I'm limited because of my medical conditions, but I will find a less marbly one, and I will have one every once in a while, you know.
right.
But I'm not paying. I'm not going to pay $25 for Colleen and I to eat 2 steaks. You know?
Exactly, exactly. It's not going to work that way. So I have hopes that we're going to see the prices of beef come down. In the meantime, I'm eating a lot more chicken, turkey, uh,
Yeah,
and and
yeah,
and started to seriously consider jumping in with my son and getting back into hunting. Go up and get a deer or an elk that'll help carry me through some of that.
right,
So
right.
aside from these items, um, again, the factors that come into it and what can the government do, it's not like the government can just say, okay, guys, you can only charge this for beef, without doing something about the supply, without doing something about the bottlenecks in transportation, without doing something about these other things that affect that raise in prices. So it's a process. It's a process, is what I'm finding out. They are
Yeah,
taking the steps, but we're not going to see an immediate result or an immediate relief in these areas.
that with having to restart or whatever, there's a lot of cost incurred,
Mhm.
which gets passed on to the customer, which is the consumer, which is the American people. It's sad but true. But always remember that the worst words ever said was, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Exactly, exactly. We've got a government in turmoil. Um, we do have some positive things happening financially. Uh, the president mandated whoever it is in charge of interest rates for mortgages to drop the mortgage rates, and I see where that's occurred now. It's gone from anywhere from 9 to $12 as your cheapest if you have great credit, It's dropped down to in the $4 range or 4% range.
4%. Yeah.
Yeah, so interest rates on mortgages are coming down. Uh,
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen a 4% interest rate on mortgage. That's pretty astronomical.
yeah.
Uh, should help some folks buy their first home,
Yep.
or those who got in at a higher rate can refinance and gain from that. It's a
Hmm.
good deal. Good deal.
So we have that coming in positive. I see the interest rates on CDs are way up right now. So, we've got some positive things occurring, and these are things under governmental control. You
And it seems it's all based around your like you said, long-term investment type
mm-hmm,
stuff, your traditional investment stuff,
mm-hmm.
rather than like the Bitcoins dropped drastically. Your short-term investments not doing so well.
Right, your crypto. They've dropped significantly. They've lost what they gained. Uh, so there are some positive things occurring. I don't know as we're going to see any immediate relief on these others. Uh, the statistics are not the statistics. The trends will show that over time these prices will come down. Now, what does that mean over time? Could this? It took them time to rise. They didn't just jump overnight, and I don't expect to see any of it come down overnight. But the efforts are being made, and the pieces are being put into place for this long-term recovery program.
Right. That being said, the we're still seeing residual effects of the COVID era in the price increase, and I don't know how long it would take for that to go away. So it's been 5 years since that started,
Mm-hmm.
but we're starting to see some good things happening and that kind of falling off and fading away. But now we have the other, what transportation costs, increasing wages. We have all of that to deal with. I don't personally expect anything to go back the way it was pre-pandemic, but a little more reasonable. That's all we can ask for, the way I
Right,
see it.
right, and I think the ultimate effect is going to be an overall. Uh, the bottom line is how does it affect my personal life? Does my income and the increase in income and wages allow me to have the lifestyle that I had pre-pandemic? Uh, you can't base this, I don't think, on $2 a gallon gas. You can't base it on, a $10 T-bone. You can't base it on any one thing. These prices are going to still be there, but the wages are going to make it balance out eventually, and you'll be able to live your life in the fashion that you've been accustomed to living it in. Um, I remember, and I'm sure Bones remembers. I know when I started driving, gas was 27 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
I remember going to work one day. It was just the day before payday, and I was broke, and I was almost out of gas, and I wanted something to eat for lunch. And I dug into my change that I'd been throwing in my door handle. I filled my gas tank, went and ate lunch, and had money left over just
Yeah,
out of the change in my door handle.
you could
Uh,
get two burgers for 19 cents on sale day at D's.
well, yeah, you used to be able to get a Big Mac fries and a large Coke for 99 cents. Um, those days are gone. You're not going to see that. But you've got to
Hey,
remember during that era, I was making 3.25 an hour.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you're not going to see wages drop and you're not going to see those prices again.
Right.
Um, the cost of a home, average cost of a home, I know in this area is around $550,000. That's your average home. I bought my first home for $30,000.
Yeah.
Uh, I had a $300 a month house payment and thought it was killing me. Um, you won't see those days come back.
Nope.
The prices are not going to go back down to that, but the wage increases are have gone up on almost a significant or almost an equal scale. It all comes
Yes.
down to
Yeah.
how you can afford to live and can you afford the lifestyle that you've become accustomed to.
Right. Right.
So from
Well,
Padre Havoc and Bones, I mean, we looked into it, and I wish I had some better things to say to you folks, other than help is on the horizon. It's going to be a slow recovery. It's never going to go back to what it was. But
yeah, and I want to say that we're not the financial experts. We're just talking from experience that we have and our investigation into it. So don't think that we're trying to be financial experts in this. But I think there is going to be some positive from it. So I want everybody to look forward to the positive and try to stay positive.
exactly, and everybody do your part. Uh, there you have it. I mean, I wish I had some magical wand that or had some kind of influence or some kind of knowledge that would tell you things are going to get better tomorrow. It's going to be a long-term recovery, folks, and we're all going to feel the effects of that until it recovers. Yes, the government's had a big part in this, in getting us to where we're at today, and they're going to play a big role in getting us out of it. So, in the meantime, folks, uh, keep an eye on things, do the best you can do, and
Stay positive, everybody.